When Hyundai boldly decided to start its own luxury brand, it took the company's best seller, the Genesis, and moved it to the Genesis lineup and renamed it the G80. Just 1 year into that model's new name, we see an all-new refreshed version, and this week I'm testing out the 2018 G80 Sport equipped with an all-new 3.3-liter twin-turbo V6. So is it any good in the mid-size executive sedan class? That's what we're here to find out. Before we get started on the Genesis G80 video, I wanted to do a quick shout out to this really slick watch that I've been wearing for the past couple of days. So if you remember my Rolls-Royce video, I did the same shout out to Aero Collective for this really nice watch that they had sent me. And this time they sent me a different style because like every other watch, there's so many different styles to choose from. Now this particular one is probably my personal favorite. Now when you buy the watch, it shows up in this really slick box with the inside of the box being lined with felt. So it's really nicely packaged. Now this one is still part of the Chrono S family. However, it's just a different color. The watch face is now blue with a black band, which I think is probably the best looking. Now, just like that other watch I talked about, the housing is made of surgical grade stainless steel. The watch face is coated in a crystal sapphire glass, so it's scratch resistant and water resistant by up to 50 meters. And it's a really comfortable watch to wear on your wrist because the band is made of genuine Italian leather. Now, just like that G80, I think it's a really classy and elegant looking watch that looks a lot more expensive than its price would suggest. So if you're looking to pick one of these up just in time for the holidays, make sure you go to www.vincerocollective.com//redline1 for a special 15% discount. But with all that said, let's get started on the Genesis G80 video. By now you guys should be pretty familiar with this model. I showed you the new Hyundai Genesis back in 2015 when they fully redesigned it and gave us the second generation. Now for 2018, the company's giving the second gen the first full refresh. As you guys know, it's now known as the G80. And this particular one is one that I've been waiting to show you guys. It's the all new Sport trim. Now this Sport trim is not necessarily a full-fledged high performance model. It's kind of designed to bridge the gap between the two. And you can see the front end is where you can see a lot of changes that Genesis made. The Sport model has its own unique finish on the grille. It's like a dark chrome finish with kind of an orangey copperish tone on certain accents. The headlights are also refreshed. On this particular trim, you'll get full LED headlights with LED daytime running lights and turn signals. They're also adaptive. You lose the LED fog lights on the Sport trim to make way for these grille inlets to kind of, I guess, feed a little bit more air into the intercooler. Now this car was Hyundai's best-selling luxury sedan. The company actually sells about 1,500 units every month, so it does pretty well for them considering that the mid-size executive sedan class is kind of dying down. Now you can see around the sides, this is a pretty big vehicle. The wheelbase is around 118 inches long. It stretches around 196 inches long, so it's about a couple inches longer than most of the competitors like a Mercedes-Benz E-Class or a BMW 5 Series. Now the wheels on this particular Sport model are also unique to this trim. They're staggered, they're 19s. Really love the way they look, especially with this gray color. You get 275 in the rear, 245s in the front. Larger disc brakes, of course, and an adaptive suspension to aid with improving the handling. As you guys know, this is a really fine luxury car, but Sport really wasn't in the playbook when Genesis introduced this model. Now at the rear, you can see not too many changes. They're slightly redone LED taillights, and I really like the design. I think the taillights have a really cool three-dimensional look to it. There's a new 3.3T badge. My particular one is rear drive, so you don't have the H-Track badge. And then you have quad outlet exhausts. That basically comes from the V8 models that also finish off the rear. It's a really clean, inoffensive design. I think it'll age really well. And I think it's one of the reasons why so many people are interested in this car, because it's one of the better looking sedans in the segment. Now the trunk of the G80 is also pretty competitive. It's power opening and closing, which I like. And then when you open up the trunk, you can see the seats don't fold down. That's kind of normal in this class. The hinges, they don't crush your cargo but it is nicely finished. You do have a temporary spare tire underneath here, and you're looking at around 15 cubic feet of space. Unlike most luxury brands, Genesis comes pretty well equipped, and you can see here's the current key fob for the vehicle. It's a large but sturdy key. It doesn't actually have remote start on the key, but you can use the app from your phone if you want remote start, but intelligent access is standard. Just push this button here, that locks the door for you, and you can see the mirrors also electrically fold. To unlock it, just touch the button again. It doesn't have a sensor on the back of the door handle, like some cars, and that will unlock the door for you. Now, looking at the interior of the Sport model, you can see it is slightly unique to the standard Genesis G80 models. You can see the contrast copper colored stitching is really what gives it away, and you have seats that are slightly more aggressively bolstered. I like the thigh extender that is power adjustable. It also has an adjustable hugger basically on the seat back, which is nice, although the seat bottom cushion doesn't adjust either. But it's like a 14-way adjustable seat, which is pretty much what you expect in a vehicle in this segment. Now, stepping inside the vehicle, you can see it has a traditional sedan step-in height. I really love the way the interior looks kind of at a glance, especially with the updated carbon fiber trim on the Sport models. Now, when you shut the door, it sounds nice and solid. You have that traditional Genesis welcome chime, which is honestly the same thing as what Hyundai uses. But nevertheless, to start the vehicle up, just put your foot on the brake, push this button here to fire up the engine. You can see it has a power tilt telescoping wheel, and the Sport model comes very well equipped. Everything you see in here is basically standard. And the interior materials there, they're really nice. They're not really up to the par that some of the German competitors, like the new Mercedes-Benz E-Class, but you know, it is nice materials overall. You have a soft touch injection molded plastic piece up here. It also is soft touch down here. This is genuine aluminum and carbon fiber trim as well, which does look very nice. It replaces the wood, the matte finish wood that you get on the other models. The instrument panel hood here is also lined in leather. It is soft touch. And then the door panels here, I kind of wish that this was leather stitched. It is soft touch, which is nice, but you know, some competitors go a step further. You have an aluminum accented door handles, 2-person memory seats. There's nice stitching right here where your elbows will rest, and then all the windows are one-touch automatic for all 4. Again, you kind of expect that in the vehicle in this segment. The mirror controls are over here. That's how you electrically fold them if you guys want. Now, the steering wheel is also unique to the Sport model. It's a 3-spoke design. All the other Genesis models, I believe, got slightly updated steering columns. You have paddle shifters, which are aluminum, mounted on the wheel itself, which are nice. All your controls are over here for your adaptive cruise control, your Bluetooth controls, stuff like that. Now, the instrument panel gauges, I kind of wish they were unique to the Sport models. They're pretty much identical. I wish Genesis had made them maybe red accented, or maybe even just replaced it with an entire LCD. Most of the competitors are going to that. This still has traditional gauges on the side and then a helper screen in the center. Now, the 9.2-inch display is standard. The Sport model comes with the Ultimate package, which you get as you know on the regular V6 if you guys want this. This is the larger screen. It is a touch screen as well, or you can also use this knob here. Now, before you couldn't get Android Auto and CarPlay with the bigger screen. You had to get the smaller screen. Genesis fixed that, so now it actually does have the phone projection. If you plug in your phone, you have Android Auto or CarPlay, which is definitely nice. It's expected. The interface is similar to Hyundai's BlueLink telematics, with slight different different changes here and there to kind of differentiate it. Honestly, I'm not sure it's really enough. Now, when you go to the nav display here, or the map display, you can see the graphics are just the typical Hyundai graphics on a larger screen. I kind of hope Genesis will eventually do their own map graphics to kind of make it a little bit more unique. When you put the vehicle into reverse here, you also get a 360 camera system, which has decent resolution and quality. You have front and rear parking sensors, which is nice. This is part of the Ultimate package, so if you guys want the 360 camera, you have to go for this package. Now, looking down here, you can see there's a lot of traditional buttons and knobs, which I love. You have dual zone temperature control, a nice little analog clock. You have a volume knob here, a tuning knob, well labeled, and large buttons as well. Over here, there's a new wireless charging port in addition to your USB and aux port over there, and a little bit of more storage here for your phones, for your keys. There's 2 cup holders right here, which are a good size. And then, of course, this is the updated shifter for 2018. It's now an electronic shifter, which replaced the old mechanical linkage shifter. It's a nice working shifter. It's the same one that I showed you in the G90. Push forward to go into reverse, push back all the way until it clicks to go into drive. Push it forward slightly, it goes into neutral, and then park is engaged by pushing the P button there. It's a nice design, fairly easy to use. Over here, this controls the infotainment system. Again, you have your little shortcut buttons. You have heated and cooled front seats. You can turn on the camera system from just pushing this button here. If you guys are in drive at a stop, this accesses the Blue Ink telematics. There's no heated steering wheel on my tester, which would be one of these buttons, because mine's not the all-wheel drive model. For some reason, Genesis thinks if you want all-wheel drive, you'll only get the heated steering wheel. Now, I really like the center console here. It's nice and padded, leather stitched. It opens up in two ways. There's some good storage. There's another USB and a power outlet in there. It's all lined in felt. The glove compartment is also a good size. It's stamped, lined in felt. And then the seats, I find them to be very supportive, very comfortable, although I wish Genesis would offer this car with like a red leather option. That's kind of where everyone is going, especially in this segment. Above you, there's a standard panoramic sunroof that is part of a premium package on the base V6. You have a suede Alcantara headliner, more of your controls here. It is a power retractable shade as well, which kind of opens and closes in a two-way manner, which is nice. And then when if you don't want the sun, this really does a good job of blocking it out. Now, overall, I really like the interior of this car. Could use a little bit more differentiation from Hyundai, like the gauges, some of the buttons, the map display, but I think it's a really step in the right direction. It's competitive with a lot of the Japanese offerings, like from Acura or Infiniti or Lexus. The rear seat of any vehicle in this segment is also very important. You can see Genesis gives you a plentiful amount of space. This is very class competitive with all of its other competitors. Now, stepping back here, you can see it's got a really nice, easy step-in height, just like the front, and then when you shut the door sounds equally as solid. Now, legroom in here is pretty good. I mean, this is where I have the seat to drive. I'm 5'7". I would be comfortable back here on long trips. There's good foot space, good space back here. This is much better than what you get in the compact offerings. Now, because I have the Sport model, which comes with the Ultimate package, you have manual sunshades right here for the rear windows, and then you have this power sunshade right here, which you can push from this button, and that will basically put that up, which helps block you from the sun. There's also 3-level heated seats. There's a cup holder here. This armrest folds up and down, which is nice. You have a pass-through for the trunk here, because I don't believe the seat back actually folds down. That's kind of typical in this class. This car is rear drive, so there is a very large hump here for the drive shaft. At least you get rear seat air vents, and then there's 2 map pockets back here. But overall, 2 people would be great. 3 might be a little bit more on the tighter side. Now, under the hood of the latest Genesis, there's an all-new engine for the Sport trim. You still get your choice between a base 3.8 V6 and a 5-liter V8. This is the mid option. It's a 3.3-liter twin-turbo gasoline direct injection V6 with variable valve timing. I've shown you this engine before in the G90, the larger vehicle. This engine is also coming in the smaller G70 and the new Stinger GT, which I'll be driving later next week, and I'll be showing you guys a full review on that. Now, in this car, it makes the same power, 365 horsepower, up 54 from the base V6 and 376 pound-feet of torque. That's honestly very impressive numbers, compares very favorably to a Mercedes E43 and a BMW 540i. Now, the G80 is a pretty heavy sedan. This particular configuration weighs around 4,300 pounds. Add another 100 pounds if you guys want all-wheel drive. So it's about 400 pounds heavier than most of its competitors. It all goes out through a Hyundai-designed 8-speed automatic transmission. You're driving the rear wheels or all-wheel drive. And because it's so heavy, fuel economy does suffer. This is only rated at 17.25. You can put, or they recommend premium. I'd probably put premium in it. It has like an 18.5 gallon gas tank, but let's get out on the road and see how it all performs. By now, I'm pretty familiar with the Genesis platform. I mean, I first showed you guys a full review on this car back when it was called the Hyundai Genesis 2 years ago. And then I showed you guys the Genesis G80 when Genesis decided to rebrand themselves. However, you guys have been basically requesting nonstop to do the G80 Sport, which is the trim level that is going to appeal to a lot of, enthusiasts looking for, something a little bit more than the standard Genesis. And I've been waiting to get my hands on this. So when Genesis finally dropped off this car, I was pretty happy. And my initial first impressions on the Sport are quite positive. I mean, I really, really like the way the Genesis G80 feels. It's a very comfortable, spacious, luxurious, quiet luxury sedan. And the Sport kind of just takes it to, new levels of refinement and speed. And if that's what you're looking for, this one should be pretty much at the high end of your list.
Now, my initial reaction when I first put my foot down there is this car has a slight hesitation off the line. I'm not entirely sure if it's some turbo lag or if it's just the transmission, but you literally have like a half-second delay, which is, you know, what I was expecting. This is a twin-turbo V6, but immediately I'm noticing that this car doesn't need the V8, honestly. With this twin-turbo 6, you really get all the torque and all the power that the base V6 was lacking, which honestly, that car was not slow. That would hit 60 in 6.5 seconds, but with this twin turbo, so much torque, and you don't even have to really be pushing the engine that hard. It's making its peak torque of like 373 from like 1500 RPM all the way up to 4500 RPM, and you really feel that when you first put your foot down. This car is so effortless feeling, so smooth. And really, the Genesis G80 is one of those luxury sedans that feels so Japanese when you're driving it. It feels just like I'm driving like a Lexus GS, but it's got more power than a GS 350, and that's what I said it was kind of lacking when I did my full review on that. This has that pull that I was looking for. Now, my tester is the rear drive model, and surprisingly, it puts the power down well, even when you floor it from a standstill. Now, I actually had it with the traction control off there, and as you guys heard, no drama, no wheel spin, and that's impressive. But again, I'm not terribly surprised. This car weighs 4,600 pounds, and you feel it when you're going down the road. This is a big, heavy car. It's literally between 200 to 500 pounds heavier than a lot of its competition. Now, that doesn't make this car, you know, a boat to drive. It actually still has an incredible chassis. The steering in this car, you know, is typical Genesis Hyundai numb. The company's been working very hard, especially now that they have Albert Bierman, you know, on their, you know, performance driving team. And, you know, you feel that the chassis wants to play. It just has a lot of weight to push around. The steering in its, you know, in its sports setting here is quick enough in its response, but sometimes I feel like the car's chassis and steering just aren't in tune with each other. There are definitely times where I feel the car is a little skittish. I don't have the kind of confidence that I have in a Cadillac CTS V Sport, for example. But, you know, this car will play when you start pushing it, and the suspension soaks up the bumps. This has an adaptive suspension versus, you know, the other Genesis models. And I definitely noticed the very smooth ride quality, the very buttoned down suspension, and the engine sounds really good. It makes some pretty good noises. Now, one thing I don't like is the paddles in this car. They're mounted on the wheel, and honestly, they just feel kind of cheap. But seriously, this is one fast luxury sedan. I'm impressed. I mean, 0 to 60 in 5.2 seconds. I couldn't really complain. And honestly, you don't need all-wheel drive. This car does not need the all-wheel drive. It puts the power down so well for a rear drive sedan, better than a lot of the competition that I've driven. This honestly feels like it sticks to the road in a way that you would never associate, you know, the brand Hyundai or Genesis for. I mean, this thing will surprise you the moment you put your foot down. It just cut everything there. My foot was to the floor and it would not give me any more power. But this car will get a little tail happy if you guys switch off the traction control and make some left turns or whatever. But wow, this thing is seriously impressive. I'm impressed with this car. Now, the 8-speed automatic, this is a Hyundai Genesis or Genesis design transmission. It's a good transmission. It's definitely, you know, right up there in terms of the ZF 8-speed in terms of smoothness. In terms of responsiveness, it's not always there. I wish it had, you know, those burbles from the exhaust that I've driven on some of this car's competitors. But overall, when you put it back into its normal drive mode and just cruise. This is where the Genesis is seriously excelling as a luxury sedan. I have no complaints. The seats are comfortable, the visibility in here is good, you have good view out of the front, out of the back. This car has a plethora of driver assistance tech that is standard, by the way. Some of the German competitors make you pay extra for a driver assistance tech package. Now, the Japanese are starting to catch up where they're making it standard, like Lexus, for example. But you have full speed range adaptive cruise, you have with pedestrian detection, you have forward collision warning with automatic braking, you have active lane keep assist that does a really good job of keeping you in the lane. And it has a drowsiness indicator. You have automatic high beams with dynamic bending light. They swivel. I mean, this is one seriously well-rounded luxury sedan at a really attractive price. Now, fuel economy is where I did mention earlier the Genesis is lagging behind. It's rated at 17 city, 25 highway. You lose 1 mpg on the highway if you guys go for the all-wheel drive model. And in my week's worth of testing, I've been averaging around 18 miles per gallon in mixed driving. On the highway, I did get it up to about 24 miles per gallon. I could have gotten to 25 if I probably put it in eco mode a little bit more. I mean, the gas mileage of this car is suffering because it doesn't have any cylinder deactivation. It doesn't have auto start stop. It's heavy, and that's where Genesis kind of had to save weight. They weren't able to use like aluminum, carbon fiber, those exotic lightweight materials to kind of reduce the weight of this car. But you kind of have to give and take. This is still one excellent driving luxury sedan. It's just going to be a little bit heavier than most of its competitors.
Now, ever since the second generation Genesis came out back in 2015, I've been pretty impressed with it. Had a chance to drive both the base 3.8 V6 and the 5-liter V8. And after spending a week with the all-new twin-turbo V6, I'm happy to report that this engine strikes the perfect middle ground for this chassis. It's got an incredible amount of power. It's got a really nice rear drive chassis. It has a really comfortable ride and a really luxuriously appointed cabin. Now, that being said, does this live up to the Sport badge? And I'm happy to say that this car definitely feels a little bit lighter on its feet versus the base engine, and it has the pull that I was looking for, similar to the V8, much better than the naturally aspirated 6. So what's it going to cost to get one of these in your driveway? Well, the Genesis still starts at a pretty low price. A base G80 3.8 starts at around $41,000. Add about $5 grand if you want the premium package for that big Pano sunroof. If you guys want the ultimate package, that's another $5,000, which is basically 10 grand more. That gives you features like the LED headlights, the 9.2-inch screen, the Lexicon audio, the power closing rear tailgate. Now, the Sport model is actually only about $3,400 more than the base 3.8. It does come standard with that premium and ultimate package. My tester is stickered for around $56,000. Add $2,000 for all-wheel drive. If you guys want a V8 fully loaded, this will top out at around $60,000. Now, I know that sounds like a lot of money for a new luxury player. However, if you're going to compare this to like a Mercedes, a BMW, an Audi, a Lexus, those are going to cost between $5,000 to about $20,000 more expensive, especially if you guys want the all-new Mercedes-Benz E43, which is technically the competitor for this all-new G80. So in typical Hyundai fashion, the new Genesis luxury brand leads the way in terms of value with the best warranty, and it also has looks that I think will age extremely well. So if you guys are in the market for a mid-size luxury sedan like this, I would definitely put this one at the top of your list, especially if the badge snobbery thing isn't really your thing. But if you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, make sure you follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and if you haven't done so, please subscribe to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll catch you all in the next video.
Didn't think you could do a burnout in a Genesis, did you? That's cool. That's pretty cool, I have to admit. That is pretty sweet.